Hi and welcome to video 2 in my tutorial series on the Polyend Synth. I want to do a bit of mopping up from my last video. I made a silly mistake yesterday when I was recording my short video about the relationship between the screen and the rotary encoders. Later on that day I was trying to record the video that I'm recording now, and I suddenly discovered that none of my magenta synths were working on any synth engines in any scenes, and I went absolutely nuts trying to figure it out. I tried resetting the device, I tried reflashing the firmware, all the usual stuff, checking the mixer, to no avail, and I was convinced something was wrong, and I sent an email to Polyend. You know what it's like, and I left it for a few hours, went away. Suddenly I realised what I had done. I turned the local mode to off on my magenta synth. So if you look here, it's this bottom right encoder, and with it off, of course, blue and yellow work. But what I didn't realise was that it's global to the whole machine. So if I go to another scene, that was a initialised one, if I just load in another one, I don't like that one, okay, blue, yellow working, but magenta not working. So watch out for that. So this is a different scene, but the local mode is still off. What fooled me a bit is that you can change the amount of voices scene by scene, but that local mode, like I keep saying, is global. So watch out for that. I'm going to turn that on. Probably wouldn't ever need to turn that off. Local mode is an old thing from the 80s, and I used to do this a lot. Have two synths MIDI together, and I was playing one synth from the other, and I didn't want to hear the sound of the mother synth, if you like, so I turned the local mode off so I could just play the keys on that keyboard but only hear the sound of the other one. I'm sure you know the situation, so just watch out for that. It's not a bug, it's perfectly understandable. It's something that I just didn't realise I'd done. The other thing I wanted to talk about is the grid. I said that there were 12 layouts, and here they are, all these here right the way down to purple. One thing I didn't say is that at the moment you can't edit these grids. You're only able to use the 12 provided, so you can't, do a custom grid for yourself. As far as I know. If I'm wrong, then obviously please let me know. I made a short video yesterday about the relationship between the display, the screen here, and the rotary encoders, so watch out for that. It's only about 4 or 5 minutes. This screen, just in case you know, is not a touch screen. You can't touch it and move things around on it. Everything you see on here is only editable by turning these knobs over here or pressing buttons, okay? And there's a video, like I say, that you can watch that explains all about that. I talked about the stuff that comes in the box, but I didn't actually show you. So you get the power adapter. Obviously this is a power adapter for my Polyend play. I think it's exactly the same. And you obviously get the lead that goes with it. You have a USB-A plug at one end and the C at the other. That A end plugs in there and the C end plugs in the back of the Polyend. You get a 5-pin MIDI female to TRS jack. Okay, so you plug that into MIDI in or MIDI out on the back of the device. Then you plug a normal MIDI lead into that, and then whatever you need for the other end. You get this rather nice stereo mini jack to 2 female full-size jacks. So this is great if you want to come out of the audio out into 2 normal mono jack leads, full-size jack leads. Useful accessory. I showed you the dongle for putting the card in, so you can put that in your computer to transfer data. And this is the book. I showed you a picture of it. This is the actual book itself, and it's really, really good, full of extremely useful information. Like I said, not a full manual, but definitely enough to get you up and running. So all that stuff comes in the box. So let's move on from where I left off at the end of my first tutorial. Synths and patches. Okay, so these pads here, these illuminated pads, can be populated by a synth patch from one of the 8 synths on offer. So I've now initialized a scene, and on all 3 synths I've got the acid synth, exactly the same setup, just different octaves. Okay, so if I want to see the synths that are on offer, hold shift and engine up here. Okay, and on the left grayed out you've got the list of engines. Let's just click engines here, scroll down, you'll see all the synths on offer. I'll just briefly tell you what they all do. The Acid Synth is a single oscillator mono analog synth. The Fat is a 3 oscillator analog synth. WAVs is a 2 oscillator wavetable synth. VAP is a virtual analog 2 oscillator polysynth. WTFM is a wavetable 2 operator FM synth, a bit like a DX7. PMD is a physical modelling synth. PHZ is a phase distortion 2 oscillator synth, think Casio CZ series, and Grain is a granular synth. So those are all the engines on offer. I'm going to press shift and engine again. What comes up is not the list of engines but the list of patches for that engine. So I'm on Acid, these are all the available patches. So if I play the blue pads and go down through those patches, immediately you can hear what they sound like. Okay, so if I wanted to change the engine, I'd press engine, scroll down to a different one. Let's try WTFM, the DX7 type one. Got to click it to select it. All the patches come up for that. Now these are all the patches available for the WTFM synth. Now if you want to lock one of these in, you've got to actually click the button. So let's find one we like. What have we got here? Chunky bass. Cloverfield's a nice one. Let's go for that one. So click the button. Now it says Cloverfield up here next to the engine name, and that synth is in, and then you can go on and edit it. Like I said, if you choose a patch from the list available for each synth, you'll see the name of this patch to the right of the engine name, like this Cloverfield one. If I go to a different coloured synth, yellow or magenta, there's no name there because I haven't selected a named patch. Go back to the blue and there's my Cloverfield again. So let's go to yellow, let's hold shift and engine, let's try a different engine, go to fat, click, play the yellow pads of course, basic glass, click, now basic glass is in there. Let's go to the magenta synth, shift and engine, different engine, let's go to I don't know, PHZ or Grain in fact, click. I'll play the magenta pads to audition the sound. Doesn't matter for the moment what I choose. Castle Atmosphere, that'll do. Click it and now Castle Atmosphere is there. So I've selected 3 patches from 3 engines. So on the blue I've got Cloverfield, a WTFM patch. On the yellow I've got Basic Glass, which is a fat patch, and on the magenta I've got Castle Atmosphere, and that's a Grain engine. Okay, so that's how you select engines and patches. So if you edit anything on these patches, I'll just edit this ADSR very quickly. I'm not going to go through this in any detail. And you go to engine. Okay, it says save, and I could save this. If I press save, it doesn't save automatically. You're going to have this QWERTY keyboard come up. I'll talk about naming a bit later on, but you can rename this and save it. I'm not going to do that for the moment. And once you've done all that and you're happy with your new scene, press save, QWERTY keyboard comes up and you can save your new scene and it will go into the list alphabetically. I'm not going to do that at the moment because I'm just messing around. Now if I go back to initializing a scene, all 3 synths are the same, they're all Acid. There's no name next to the Acid up there because these are all synths that are not altered at all, so they have no name. And you'll see that in some of the presets, some of the scenes that come with the machine, some of the patches haven't been named. Will be an actual edited synth patch, but it'll have no name. Good thing, of course, if I just go to another scene, let's load another one in, load this one in. No. If I go to shift and engine, okay, and it goes straight to that patch that was on that blue synth. It says My Horse up there. Now, I'm no synth programmer. I understand all the basic stuff like cranking the cutoff filter and resonance, changing the amp and filter envelopes and the glide, the portamento if you like. This device isn't super complicated, but I do urge you to look at other videos where people do deep dives into editing, like Craig Williams. It can be very rewarding. I did that the other day, and that's how I came up with a couple of my own scenes. Just going to initialize a scene, and I've got the same sound on each of the colours. So the synths can be edited by means of these 9 encoders here, okay, directly to the right of the vertical line, and plus the various buttons on the far left. If you press the top 4 square buttons on the right of the device, you will be taken to 4 editing areas for whatever synth is in focus. So the blue colour synth, obviously they're all the same at the moment. So if I press this top button here, you have the oscillator. If I keep pressing that button, go through those 2 pages. Then we've got the filter, only 1 page for that. ADSR, there's 2 pages, the amp and the filter, and the LFO, it's only 1 page on that. Okay, but if you go to any of these 4 buttons and scroll with the screen knob, you'll get to the other pages that way as well, which is quite good, isn't it? Worth knowing. And obviously if you have something that's got 2 pages, keep pressing the button and it will just cycle through those pages. The modulation page can be accessed directly by holding Shift and Sequencer Mod button. See, but that can also be accessed with the screen knob. There can be more than 1 page on this depending on the engine. There's only 1 page on this one at the moment. Not going to go into editing just at the moment. Now, some synths have more pages for editing than others. The Acid synth has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pages. Whereas if I go to say the WABS synth, okay, and I'll just load in that patch there. Now this has got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 pages. So the Acid has 7 pages, so does the FAT. The WAVs, the VAP and the WTFM have 11 pages. PMD has got 7 pages, and the PHZ and the Grain synth engines have 11 pages. Now if you touch the top of the rotary encoder that's linked to one of these things over here, if it's something where you change the number, touching the top of the rotary encoder, it shows the current value and then springs back. See? So warp 1 is set 25%, warp 2 74%, noise 0%. These knobs up here are going to change the actual oscillator. Okay, it's going to change that, and that one is on and off. So the tops are touch sensitive. See, these C1, C2, C3, these are macros that I'm going to talk about later. If you touch the top of them, they show you what's assigned to them. The screen knob doesn't have that facility. Touching the top of it doesn't do anything. Now of course, if you want to edit a synth, you could touch the top of an encoder, see what the value is, write it down for future reference. Bit fiddly, bit of a fag, but it might be worth it. Talking of getting things back, it's probably a good idea to back up your micro SD card that's in the back of the machine using this dongle. Back it up to somewhere on your computer, although you can download its contents from the Polyend website, but of course that won't contain any scenes that you've made or any synth patches you've made. So you've got to make sure you're logged into your account, and make sure you make an account and register your device with Polyend while you're on their site. It's a very good site, and there's a really good forum on there as well, and I found the people at Polyend to be very helpful when I've had a few problems or questions. Right, good. Let's look at adding effects to synths. I'm going to do my favourite thing, which is to initialize a scene. Now I've got the same Acid synth and all. So effects, the effects on the synth are what we call send effects. That means there's one setting for each of the modulation, delay and reverb effects. Modulation is kind of chorus if you like, delay is kind of echo. There's one setting for each of those, it's global to all synths. It's the amount of the sound of the synth that you send to the effects that can be changed. So for instance, you could have a reverb soaked pad on one synth and a completely dry, no reverb if you like, sound on a bass on another synth. So if you want to set an effect up, so hold shift and effects, keep holding shift down and you'll see the other effects. That one's modulation, delay, reverb, and it just cycles through there. You can also do the same thing by holding shift and filter. Now here we have the page that's got the effect sends. So if I want to turn up the reverb on the blue, I simply bring this up here, or the delay, turn the reverb down. Okay, and then once you've done that, you just hold the shift and the mixer effects until you get to the effect you want. So there is the reverb, and I could change the model. So at the moment, got natural, plate, warp. Let's try a plate. Bring the time up. But don't forget, this is global to all of the sounds for this scene. It's the amount of the sound that you send to this. So don't forget, the effects can be called up by pressing shift and mixer. Keep holding that button. The effects patches, there are patches available for these. So if I'm on reverb, if I hold shift and engine, those are all the patches for the reverb. So let's just turn that delay down for the moment, shall we? All the way down. We'll turn the reverb up so we can hear what we're doing. So bring up the reverb. Keep holding shift, press engine. These are all the patches for the reverb. So this is bright night. Let's try another one. Mirror. Nocturnal. Won't come into play until you click it. You see? So you've got effects patches. You can alter the effects and save them. Usual thing. Very good, isn't it? Obviously you need to try these out to see if you like them first of all. Scrolling through these patches does not select them. So if you want to hear what they're doing, you have to click the screen knob down. And if you like what you hear, give it a name and save it. Okay? Right, that's probably enough for today's lesson. I hope you're enjoying this series. If you have any questions, please do get in touch with me. Thanks for watching, and you'll see me in my next one.